everybody, and welcome back to Eternal Spring. Paul Thurrott, and I am here with my wife, Stephanie, as always. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
So we're working through the book, and one of the many side topics that's come up, honestly, is a huge list of these things, is about phone connectivity. And I will say, compared to Europe or elsewhere, one of the many advantages of visiting Mexico as an American is that many wireless plans just kind of work there, or at least offer more in the way of international services, either free or inexpensively, compared to, say, visiting Europe or elsewhere in the world. And when that's not the case, those features are reasonably priced, non-complex to add if they're add-ons, etc. Um, this is probably similar in Canada. We don't live in Canada, maybe in Europe, but we're from the United States, so this will be a little U.S. focused, but I suspect it will apply to a lot of people elsewhere as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And, in the time we've been traveling, especially in the last 20 years, a lot's changed. Back in 2003, we rented a plain little Nokia phone that we could bring to Europe. And that was just so that we could talk to our kids who were staying with their grandparents. We didn't use it for anything else. We couldn't use it for anything else.
Hmm.
Um, Today, we can just use the phones that we have all the time, our own phones, to talk and to text and to access data just about anywhere in the world. Um, but those capabilities come down to whatever wireless plan that we've chosen. Um, what we've seen is that most of the carriers in the US provide more capabilities for free or inexpensively in Mexico and in Canada than they do in other countries. So if you're going to Mexico, the first thing to do is figure out what your current plan provides, and then you can go from there.
Yeah, good luck with that. These things are complex. I just brought up the website for one carrier. There's no way we could go through all these things, and very specifically went through the 55 plus plans that they have at T-Mobile in this case. I went through a little wizard that they asked, what's most important to you? And what I was looking for was international capabilities, right? And so what it came up with was this page that said, this is your best choice, $45 a month, really $50 per month with auto pay. And you can see, Canada and Mexico are called out, unlimited talk, text, and data, but then it says 128 kilobits per second, which if you look at this is not great, right? That's like not having data. It's probably good for email occasionally, but it's not really data. So that's probably fine if what you want is your phone number, people to be able to reach you, call you, you call them. That's great. Data, that's not going to work. This essentials data plan, same thing, doesn't work. But if you go down to this one, go 5G 55 plus. It doesn't have to be this specific plan, but this is one of the ones that came up on the page. You can see it's $60 per month versus 50 or $55. And then you see this line here. It says Canada and Mexico, unlimited talk and text like the other plans, plus up to 10 gigabytes of high-speed data. That's actually very good, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So $5 per month extra, not too bad. So if you're already paying
Mhm.
50 or 55 and you can do this, and if it maybe this makes sense
Mhm.
um, as a little upgrade or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, if it's valuable to you like it is to us, it's worth the upgrade. The thing is, this is a bill that you're going to pay every month. So
Right.
it depends how often you're going to go to Mexico, how much time you're going to spend there. Um, if you're only going once or for a week or two or whatever, you're probably going to want to look at some other options.
Yes. Yes, you are. And again, this is going to be very person specific and situation specific, but I would say until fairly recently, the advice generally would be, fly to Mexico with your phone. When you get there, buy a SIM card at the airport and, shop around if you can. And they have stores. You can buy SIM cards in other places as well. And that would give you a local phone number and some amount of talk and text time and some data usage probably. But today, things have evolved, right? So we have eSIMs, which are basically virtual SIM cards that you actually download to your phone. It's just software. You don't have to have a little card. You don't have to put the pin in and do all that stuff, right? Um, you can buy these things in advance before you go. You can buy them while you're there. You might go to Mexico not thinking you need this, and then you're there and say, actually, some data would be nice or whatever. You can just go online and buy them right away and download them right to your phone. So much more convenient. It can be less expensive. You should shop around, right? And that's especially true if you have your own phone and you're going to use it and for talk and text using one of those plans, not necessarily T-Mobile, but whatever you happen to be using. And what you might need is just data, right? Because
Mhm.
there are data only eSIMs that can be a pretty good deal.
Right, right. We should mention that this all requires you to have a fairly recent phone. If you have a,
Right.
kind of a old phone you've had for years, it's probably not going to work. And your phone needs to be unlocked, which is a lot more common than it used to be. And you can check with your carrier to find out if your phone is unlocked or not, and whether or not it supports eSIMs.
Right. Yeah. And you can, it's now a legal necessity. You can get your carrier to unlock your phone. If it's not, this is something you can do if you have a recent phone. Um, I have tested several eSIM services over the past year or two. I can recommend a few of them. We'll have links below or wherever they appear near YouTube, near the video. It's hard to know in advance which one's best. One thing in Mexico, this is common everywhere really, is these eSIMs connect to different cell phone networks, right? And some of them are better in some places, just like they are here in the United States. But I can go to the Nomad website. Nomad's one of the ones I've had really good results for. And you just search for the country you're going to, right? And so in this case, obviously Mexico. And then they'll give you some plans. They have day plans and regular plans. Honestly, the day plans aren't a very good deal. But the regular plans, because they work over 30 days, even if you're only going to be there 7 or 10 days, this often will make sense. And you can look at your data usage at home to determine roughly or estimate what you think your usage might be when you're in Mexico. You might be using it more because maybe you're going to be online posting photos or whatever, but you don't have to get it right the first time. The nice thing is if you go low on the data and you use it up when you're there, you can just buy more, right? You can just buy another eSIM and apply it while you're there in Mexico.
Mhm.
Really, really convenient.
Yeah, yeah. So, let's say you're going to be in Mexico for 10 days. We both use less than 5 GB per month normally, and a 5 GB plan at Nomad is normally $20. So if you were paying $50 to $55 a month at T-Mobile with those plans that we talked about earlier, and this is the only trip you're going to make to Mexico this
Hmm.
year, the eSIM is going to probably make sense because you're going to be paying an extra $60 to T-Mobile to add $5 per month, but the eSIM is just $20 a one-time cost.
Yeah, and then I mean, of course, you can also kind of search more broadly too. S- we stay longer than a week or 10 days usually. We like to visit more often. It can get complicated, but it doesn't really have to be that much more expensive. We both, Stephanie and I, pay for carrier plans that cater to those who travel internationally in some ways, right? So I'm on a Google Fi Simply Unlimited plan, which is about $50 per month before taxes and so forth. It uses T-Mobile's networks at home, right? It works great internationally. I have my phone number there, texting, everything works without any having to do anything. I get 15 gigabytes of high-speed data each month, regardless of the unlimited name, and that includes Mexico, right? So that makes sense for me. 15 gigs is I will never use that much data. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I have never so far used that much data.
Mhm. Right. Um, and I'm on a Verizon plan unlimited that includes the plan overall includes our kids and my parents, that has unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data in the US. And it basically works exactly the same in Mexico as it does in the US, except if you use more than 500 megabytes of data in a day, it gets reduced to 2G speeds for the rest of that day. Um, for me, that I haven't run into that limit. I don't really use that much data outside of what I'm using on Wi-Fi. And Paul is more active online when we're out in the world than I usually am. So it's probably true of a lot of couples where one person uses more data out in the world, posting photos, Google Maps, doing research, whatever, and the other person doesn't need to use that much data. So you can balance for that. And then of course, back at the apartment, we have Wi-Fi.
Right, right. Yeah, I've experimented with so many different things over the couple of years we've been there. Stephanie's just gone straight through it, Verizon, the whole thing, which has worked fine. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously a strategy. You can connect to Wi-Fi as much as possible. Your hotel, Airbnb, whatever, will have Wi-Fi, obviously. But most of the places you visit are going to have Wi-Fi. Mexico City has a city-wide Wi-Fi network, like a lot of big cities do. And it's horrible, like a lot of big city Wi-Fi networks are, right? It's free, so it's there. You can try it. In my experience, that has not worked well, but it is there, as a last ditch resort, I guess.
Right. Yes. You know. Yeah. And I guess, if you're going to spend more than just a week or two in Mexico, or you're splitting your time between Mexico and the US, you might want to look into getting a cell phone plan in Mexico, which would have its own local number and whatever talk, text, and data limits. They often will have free usage for certain apps like WhatsApp. Um, we've looked into this. We did a couple pay-as-you-go plans, and we so far have not needed a more permanent plan, which surprised us. And we will definitely get one, but it's actually a surprising amount of work. On the last trip, we went to the telephone
Yeah.
store and they wanted, multiple references from people we know in Mexico. And
Right.
yeah, we just didn't finish up following
Yeah.
through on that. It seemed like a
I
lot of
mean,
work.
we could do it, but now it's
We could
almost a
do it.
game at this point. I almost feel like, let's just see how far we can go without having this thing.
You know?
We'll get there. We mentioned this to some
Yes.
friends and like, oh, we'll totally do that. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't want to I just don't want to. In the meantime, if you're visiting Mexico and your existing plan might be all you need. So it would be, that's actually, you should just check. You
Yeah.
may be surprised to discover that you have that connectivity. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It works fine, right? So you need to check on that. Check with the carrier. Research it online. Maybe call them or walk into the store if you have that sort of a thing. But otherwise, I mean, there are really good options now for eSIMs. Wi-Fi is prevalent everywhere in the world, in Mexico included. And if you are going to be there for a while, there's local eSIMs, local regular SIMs as well, right? So there's lots of options.
Mhm. Right. And
Um,
it doesn't have to be expensive to get a lot of connectivity.
yeah, and if it's a one-time trip, I mean, who cares? Spend spend the money and get online and have a good time, right?
Right.
It just depends on what you're doing, right? Obviously, this is a really big topic, and it probably deserves a more formal explanation than what we just gave. But we're going to expand on this for the book that we're working on. And so let us know if you have any questions, and maybe that could help guide where we go
Mhm.
with this next.
Yep.
So thank you for watching, and we will be back soon with another video.
Thank you. Bye. If you're only going once or for a week or two or whatever, you're probably going to want to look at some other options.
Yes. Yes, you are.